Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm super excited. I'll be talking about another comic book documentaries. There've been a few of them I have talked about, and there's a lot of them out there actually, believe it or not. This one is my favorite one. This would definitely go on my top 10. In fact, I'll move it up to top 5 now. And I didn't know this was out though, be honest with you. And this is Chris Claremont's X-Men documentary. And I saw this on Tubi, and it came out in 2018, which was interesting. I like, wow, how come I never heard of this? You know? I was flipping through Tubi and I just saw it popped up. I'm like, oh snap. And I was like, wow, Chris Claremont X-Men, a documentary solely dedicated on him. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. Now, I know people grew up with the X-Men from the original, from the, I think, late 50s and early 60s, if I'm corrected. Or was it late 60s? Well, I never grew up with the original X-Men, let's be real. I can only see the reprints of them, or revived versions of them. But Chris Claremont's X-Men is important because this is when actually revived the X-Men again. And this is one from the mid 1975 X-Men. Because this is when X-Men took a hiatus, like a 5-year break. And Chris Claremont was the one that brought them back. Because this is when you have like appearances of Wolverine, Storm, and this documentary will document all the X-Men before Chris Claremont's run to his run after that. That's where it will start going forward. And he's the one that took the X-Men to the deeper meaning, to the deeper story. Like the Dark Phoenix saga, he's the one that was created. He's the one that was part of that team, you know. And if it wasn't for him, we would have never got the Dark Phoenix saga or the Phono saga, which is one of my favorite saga about which I feel like is still underrated in the X-Men universe in my opinion. And I was fortunate to get the reprint books on that. But besides that, they interview Chris Claremont, they interview people that was behind the X-Men around that time, different editors during that time also, which is really cool. Um, this is a great documentary. And then when you fast forward after the Chris Claremont's one, they also go into the ones where Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and Mark Silvestri took their time with the newer X-Men, especially when Jim Lee's one, like in the early 90s, when X-Men became brand, with a new look, a new version of them. And Chris Claremont had battles with them too, with the new school. It was pretty much like old school versus new school. You know, as Chris Claremont tried to defend his X-Men that he took over for 15 years, and you know he felt kind of betrayed, and it was like a deeper story behind it, which I never knew about, to be honest with you. So it's good to know, you know. And when it comes to the movie version of X-Men, let's be real, it was actually based on Chris Claremont's X-Men universe, and they went to him for advice, Fox Studio, and you know it was a great story when Chris Claremont trying to explain to Fox like what X-Men is really about to him. It's more than just superheroes, pretty much. There's a backstory behind them, a deeper story with each character, you know. And that's what makes the X-Men universe such a big universe. A lot of people need to realize, even though X-Men is part of Marvel comic books anyway, but what people need to understand, X-Men is a universe by itself, you know. And when I first realized that is when I got the X-Men universe, X-Men comic book cards. At the time they had the Marvel cards, but X-Men had their own card lined up too, their own trading card. And I looked at that, I was like, wow, this is just a big universe, all these different characters, even characters I never even heard about. That's how big the X-Men universe is. And Chris Claremont, to me, even though Stanley and Jack Kirby was the one that created the X-Men, but to take it to the next level, Chris Claremont did. And Jim Lee, when they took over that stuff, X-Men universe, in the early 90s run, they just added like a newer take on it, like this generation, like Generation X take on it pretty much. But oh man, I mean Chris Claremont's X-Men documentary is fantastic. Highly recommend it. It's like I say, it's on Tubi TV. Thank God for Tubi. Tubi's the greatest thing, man. How many times I'm saying that, and Tubi's not even paying me to say that. You know, I mean, still watch it for free, but I would sort off the DVD and Blu-ray anyway to see if there is any special features. So you might want to go to Amazon and check that out too. See if there's any bonus materials for this documentary. Anyway, peace out and see you later, guys and gals.